What is going on? Thank you for entering the chamber once again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the first half of the new rival deck that just got revealed from the My Hero Academia page. Today we're going to be taking a look at All for One himself. Finally time for the master of the League of Villains to step out. Let's see if the mastermind, the one and only All for One, should have stayed in the shadows, or if he's packing enough heat to fight All Might. We're going to go through his character, all of the cards that he got as part of his new rival deck, and really what I think about the character as a whole, and if I think he's going to be very competitive or not. We got a lot to get into, so we're going to get right to it. Let's start off with his actual character card. All for One is a 6-hand, 27 health character. Comes with 2 enhances and response. Enhance, your non-throw attack gets +1 damage for every 3 foundations in your stage to a maximum of 5. Just with this, we see that All for One is clearly trying to play a longer game. He really wants to push the game out so he can start making his attacks large and very powerful. So this is fitting, you know, he's trying to extend his time in the game as much as we can. Enhance Commit, discard 1 momentum. If this attack is blocked, it deals no damage. Having a wall cling literally just stapled to your face means that this character is going to be able to survive for a long time. It does come with a momentum cost, but I think we're going to have some tools to circumvent that. Response. At the start of the combat phase, add 1 card from your momentum to your hand, then add 1 card from your hand to your momentum. This happens every combat phase, so this will happen both on your turn and your opponent's turn. This also means that you effectively start with a momentum when you're going second, since you can take a momentum out from your momentum when you don't have one, and then put a card from your hand that you don't need into your momentum after building, and this way you'll have a momentum to use with this Enhance and Commit to hopefully get that total block that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. This is clearly like a somewhat control-ish character that's trying to like push the game out and then hit your opponent with some kind of big momentum payoff. I think it's kind of appropriate for All for One. It's neat. I think it's a good first showing. Let's take a look at all of his attacks though. First off, we have Air Cannon Blast. This is a 4 difficulty, 3 control check with a 2 mid block. It's a 3 mid for 4 with range and stun 1 and 2 enhances. Enhance. If this attack is completely blocked, your rival commits 1 foundation. Enhance. If you have more foundations than your rival, add 1 foundation from your stage to your hand and change the zone of this attack. I think Air Cannon Blast is clearly a poke that provides a little bit of stage manipulation to boot. I don't know if this card is going to be good enough for a lot of competitive play, but if you can put some damage on it to make it where you kind of have to block the attack, its value does go up a little bit, but I think otherwise a lot of people are just going to kind of let this fly. Next we have Combination Charge. This is a 5 difficulty, 3 control with a 2 mid block. It's a 4 high for 5, also with 2 enhances, and it's a charge and fury. Enhance. If this attack is blocked, your next evil attack gets +3 damage. Enhance. Discard the top card of your deck. If the discarded card is a foundation, add it to your hand. I think Combination Charge is a really good opener that can also kind of double as a poke. It makes our next evil attack bigger if it gets blocked, so your opponent is a little incentivized to not block it and take the damage. That's of course tough with All for One pumping the damage on a move like this. It's got kind of a reverse destined for mainstream success effect with its second enhance. You're either going to clear a 3 check off the top of your deck or draw a foundation. This is the opposite of either confirming you're going to get a 5 check or drawing an attack. Not quite the exact same, but it's kind of close to the opposite. I think this card needs a good home. You have to build around it a little bit, but I could see this card actually seeing some play. It has some neat synergies with Prominence Burn, since it gets in for damage, and if they block it, your next Prominence Burn becomes very large, and then Burn is already very fast. And then you can clear the blocked Combination Charge for damage. So you might do this in like an Evil Fury Prominence Burn focused deck of some facet. Next we have Impact Recoil, which is a 4 difficulty, 3 control, 2 mid block, 5 mid for 2 with Breaker 1 and Slam. Comes with an Enhance and a Response. Enhance, discard 1 momentum. This attack gets +4 damage. I guess it's kind of like having Powerful 4 once. Response, commit 1 foundation. After you block with this card, build it face down. I'm not a huge fan of this card. It's kind of a poke with a momentum dump to put damage on it, which kind of voids it being a poke. The idea of it being a poke is you don't want your opponent to block it, or it punishes your opponent for blocking it. It's not very good as like an opener, and it's definitely not like a flow card. It's neat that we can build it if we block it, but usually blocking with your attacks is something you do because you have to and not because you want to. So the payoff, I would want like a bigger payoff for that than just being able to build it. This could maybe be neat with characters that can like manipulate our stage and pick attacks that are face down in our stage back up, like Kirishima 1. Or maybe they just care about getting cards out of their card pool. But in general, I'm not a huge fan of this card. I think it would need like a very particular home for it to be competitive. Moving right along, we have Kinetic Air Cannon, a 5 difficulty 3 control with a 3 low block. It's a 5 high for 4 with EX2 and ranged. Enhance, if this attack deals damage, add the top card of your deck to your momentum. This already makes it a great opener because your opponent basically has to block this, because if not, you get a free momentum, which means once they commit to blocking this relatively fast move, it makes it more likely that your follow-up attacks will connect. So already, I really like this card. Enhance, remove a momentum, add 1 card from your discard pile to your momentum. This is cool with Ultimate Combination, which we'll get to later, where we're trying to load foundations into our momentum because we can then build them out of our momentum. So I think this is like a really good card for All for One, and it's like a solidly reasonable card in general. I think in any deck that cares a lot about momentum and moving momentum around, this card's going to see some play. I think this is a very, very good card. Alright, moving along, we have Kinetic Booster Orb. This is a 4 difficulty 3 control with a 3 high block. It's a 1 mid 4 with charge and ranged. Enhance, commit 1 foundation, lose 2 health. This attack gains stun 3. All for 1 response, if it's in your card pool, flip. After your rival draws a card, you draw a card. I'm really mixed on this card. It's kind of a neat opener since we have to treat it as like a 5 difficulty move, since we're always going to commit 1 for the stun 3. I guess in some ways that's worse than, it's like a 5 difficulty move, because if we check a 5, we're still committing 1, so that hurts it a little bit. That being said, it's like the world's easiest block, so you're going to be prone to all sorts of like other effects. I think this card's not bad as like an opener, or even as like a second or third attack in a string, just to completely stun your opponent out, because stun 3 is a lot, even if you also have to commit a foundation and lose health. I just think people are going to fixate on the stun 3 and not think about the costs with this card. Maybe in characters that can like re-ready foundations or can like bounce and manipulate their stage a bit, this card gets a lot of mileage. Or if you have some foundations that care about when they get committed, you could do something with this. I would hate it, except stun 3 is that's just a lot of stun, and I think that warrants at least experimenting with. We've got another attack with Quirk Combination. This is a 4 difficulty 3 control with a 1 high block. It's a 3 low for 4 with Fury. Enhance, if you have more foundations than your rival, this attack gets +2 speed, and your next attack gets +2 speed. Deadlock Enhance, draw 3 cards. I really want to like this card so badly. The effect on this is very good. It's like an evil setup strike with extra upside. You don't have to burn momentum for it. It comes with a powerful Deadlock Enhance. The problem is that the condition's just not consistent unless you're playing a character that just builds a lot and you know you're going to have more foundations than your opponent. Unless you can guarantee that, I don't think you can play this card consistently. But if your character can do that, I think this card is very, very good. Just needs a particular home. Almost done with the attacks. We've got Rivet Stab, which is a 3 difficulty 3 control with a 2 low block. It's a 2 low for 2 with Fury and ranged. Enhance, commit 1 foundation. This attack gets +X damage. X equals the difficulty of the committed foundation. Interesting. Enhance, if this attack's damage is 5 or more, draw a card. I like this card in decks that can organically give it the damage that it needs to get the draw without having to like actually commit like a big foundation. If you can get there without committing like a 2 or 3 difficulty foundation, I think this card's pretty decent. I'm a little less sold if you have to commit like an Excited for Blood or a Prone to Dry Eyes. Well, actually, if you're playing with Prone to Dry Eyes, you can just pump it using Prone to Dry Eyes. That's a bad example. But I'm really not into like committing an Excited for Blood to give this attack 3 damage so I can draw a card. I'd rather just draw a card with Excited for Blood. Okay, we've got the last attack for All for One with Ultimate Combination. This is a 6 difficulty 3 control with a 1 mid block. It's a 4 high for 7, Fury, Punch, Powerful 4. That's a big, powerful number. Enhance. Build all foundations discarded to pay the cost of this attack's powerful ability. Enhance. This attack gets +1 speed for every 3 foundations in your stage. I think this is a really good, just like generic kill condition for a lot of control decks on these symbols. It pairs very well with Living Up to His Example, which is kind of funny because you can use Living Up to His Example with All for One, and Living Up to His Example will replace itself. The foundation you discard to help pay for powerful is still discarded for its powerful effect. So when you do the ultimate combination enhance, you build it in, so you don't like lose anything. So this is like a weird bomb that can also be a flow card because you build in a bunch of ready foundations, and that also gives you a lot of value. I think this is like a really good card. You just need to, it's going to warp and build, it's going to warp your deck because you need to build around needing to get a lot of foundations into your momentum. If your character is good at that, or you have ways to do that, the mileage on this card goes way through the roof. Okay, now we're getting into some foundations, starting off with a Master's Pride. This is a 0 difficulty, 5 control with a 3 mid block. Response flip. After you add a card to your momentum, ready this card, playable while committed. Makes sense. Deadlock response. After your attack deals damage, your next check gets +1. This card's a bit of a tough sell for me. It's a foundation that readies itself once, which is great for like aggressive strategies, but that's a weird fit for All for One, who's clearly not that aggressive of a character. And most aggressive decks don't farm momentum. I guess that depends on, it really depends on the strategy, but some aggressive strategies don't really care about their momentum at all. I don't know how often this card's going to see play, unless you're like a, maybe playing Denki. I think Denkis get a lot of mileage out of this card, either Denki. But it's a little specific. The Deadlock is an extra upside, but overall, I'm not the biggest fan of this card. Alright, now we have Behind the Curtain. This is a 2 difficulty, 5 control with a 2 low block. Enhance commit. Look at the top X cards of your deck and put them back in any order. X equals the number of copies of Behind the Curtain in your stage. Response once per enhance step. After you discard 1 or more momentum, your attack gets 1 damage. Let's just get this out of the way. The response is like almost not there. Like getting 1 damage for like throwing a momentum, unless you have like an attack lineup where you're throwing a momentum on every attack and playing like 3 or 4 attacks and you have like 3 of these out, that response isn't doing anything really. What we care about is this enhanced commit. Commit to look at the top cut of your deck is not very good if that's like all we're doing. But on the other hand, commit to look at top 4 and reorganize them is wild, especially if you have that ability lined up 3 more times. I mean, you'll just never check a 5 because you're going to draw all your 3s and check 5s all day. Like, incredibly powerful once you get, like, even 2 of these out, honestly. The ability to, like, pseudo reorganize and look at the next 4 cards on top of your deck, as long as you space stuff out, is incredibly powerful. Granted, it comes with a commit cost, but still. I think this card's way too random for my tastes, but I could see people having stories about someone at their locals who built like 3 of these on like turn 1 and they got really lucky or something, you know, and the game was just over because they had total control over their deck the entire game. But I don't know if this is like the most competitive card. It's too high rolly, but it is very good when it goes off. Alright, now we have Crushing Truth. This is a 2 difficulty, 5 control, 3 mid block. Response, after you block with this card, build it committed. Enhance, destroy, seal your rival's all good or order attack. I don't like this card. A foundation that builds when you block with it is neat, but then this card does very little. Like, there's a few attacks you could seal that might save your life, but it's way too inconsistent. And even as a sideboard card, it's a bit of a tough sell. Like, I know Back Alley Haymaker is a very good card and popular, and there are a lot of popular, powerful attacks that have these symbols. It seems like maybe a sideboard card at best to me. Okay, now we have a 1 difficulty foundation in Endless Loathing. It's a 1 difficulty, 5 control with a 2 high block. Form, flip. The next foundation you try to play ignores progressive difficulty. Deadlock form, flip. Your next check gets +2. Your rival's next check gets -2. This card's fine, I guess. It helps us build large stages, which is a thing that All for One cares about. But it's kind of like a one and done ability, and I don't just usually passing your builds on future turns just isn't that difficult. The Deadlock form is pretty decent. It lets you dig deeper into an attack string, and it makes your next attack very difficult to block, especially if it's deep into a string. I don't know if I see this card seeing a lot of play, at least currently. Alright, moving along, we have Forced Quirk Activation. This card is messed up. This is a 2 difficulty, 4 control with a 2 mid block. It's a unique foundation, and deservedly so. Enhance Remove. Add 1 card from your discard pile to your momentum. This is just great with Ultimate Combination because we can load in foundations into our momentum to make our ultimate combinations bigger, but also just we can then build whatever we load in. So there's a lot of internal synergy here. Enhance Destroy. Choose 1 enhance ability on a rival foundation. If your rival does not play that ability as their next enhance, they destroy that foundation. This is practically like point and click destroy any foundation. Very similar to Apathetic in that way, where Apathetic flips itself to flip a foundation. This is practically destroy to destroy a foundation. Depending on what our opponent has, we can even pick foundations that triggering those abilities would be negative for them, or we can pick deadlocks that they can't legally activate. There's all sorts of ways we can make this just a guaranteed destroy. This is a very good card, well deserving of the 4 control. I think it's going to see a lot of play both in main and sideboards. I'm very excited to play with this, and I hope it's the foil in the new rival deck, or it's a foil in the new rival deck. Moving along, we have a 1 difficulty 4 control, 3 low block foundation with Helping Tomura. Response: after you add a card to your momentum, add this card to your momentum. I like this card in any deck playing Ultimate Combination or that's simply very momentum hungry. Most decks won't need foundations like this that just immediately snap themselves into momentum. But if you do, this will probably end up seeing a couple of copies. And I think if you build a deck built around Ultimate Combination, you're going to end up registering a couple copies of this card because you can load it in when you grab momentum, use it for the powerful, and then it builds it back in ready to go, and you can use it to pass checks later in the turn. Just fits very nicely with Ultimate Combination as a card. Okay, we're almost to the end. Now we've got Mastermind Revealed. This is a 2 difficulty 5 control with a 3 high block. Enhance Flip. If you try to block this attack with a foundation, your check to block gets +3. Enhance Flip. Look at either player's momentum. I think we're really here for the first enhance mostly, but this is practically Enhance Flip for -3 speed as long as you're blocking with a momentum. Giving +3 to your check for your block is basically the same as lowering the difficulty by 3 in most situations. So I think this is going to be a really, really good card just in general, especially Evil, which kind of doesn't have much speed hate. They really only have Shock Absorption and Survive in the final. So having a foundation they can flip and just pass a block is going to be a huge game changer for them. Granted, they have to block with a foundation, but that's not the end of the world. Getting to look into someone's momentum is occasionally useful, but we're really here for the speed hate. I think this card's going to see a ton of registry. Moving along, we have a 3 difficulty 6 control check. That's a really weird combination with a 2 high block with Taunt the Hero. Appropriately, it has the taunt keyword. Enhance Commit. If this attack has greater damage than speed, it gets -2 damage. All for 1 response, remove, lose 2 health after the rival plays a deadlock ability, cancel it. Commit for -2 damage is, we see that with Resistance, which is a 1 difficulty foundation. A 3 difficulty with a 6 check is weird and would justify it having a slightly weaker ability, but this is just Resistance without the stun hate. I don't think this card's very good. Maybe if you're paranoid about deadlock hate against you, but that just seems too narrow for me, honestly. Maybe a sideboard card at best, but in general, I don't think this card's going to see very much play. And then finally, to complete our package for All for One, we have Where's Your Smile Now? So it's a 1 difficulty 5 control with a 3 mid block. Enhance Flip. Add 1 card from your rival's discard pile to the bottom of their deck. Response: once per turn, after a rival's attack deals no damage, your next check gets +1. This feels like a card designed kind of to punish All Might 6, and that's about it. Generally, flipping to remove a card from our opponent's discard pile doesn't do very much. I mean, there's a couple other random strategies that care about cards in our discard pile. This card randomly breaks Eraserhead in half. But in general, I don't see this card really seeing a whole lot of play. The response for after you basically full block an attack is kind of useful. It's like a pseudo -1 speed to the next move, but I just don't know if that's like really good enough, if that's all this foundation does. Alright, so let's talk about my overall thoughts with All for One. I think if you're going to build All for One, at least for me, I would look at Chaos. You have a very healthy amount of defensive tools, ways to manipulate your momentum and snap momentum to help pay for all of these effects that he cares about, with either moving cards into momentum or just having a large amount of momentum. You even have a couple of tools to help you pass checks to make playing things more plausible. You could do things like Quirk combination into first day of class into ultimate combination, and you end up playing ultimate combination on a 5 basically that way, and possibly Quirk combination has made ultimate combination even faster now. There's some cool stuff you can do with them on Chaos, definitely. I think you could also look at Evil if you wanted to, but that's going to require some experimentation, and that will hinge a little bit more on new cards. You have a lot of control and disruption pieces with Evil, and he does play nicely with a lot of Endeavors 2 kit. Earlier I did talk about some synergies that he has with Prominence Burn, so I could see like an Evil Fury Prominence Burn focused All for One deck not being bad. Void is tempting since a lot of Void attacks care about momentum and momentum snapping, a lot like the Edict kicks do. My issue with Void is simply that it doesn't really have very good defense baseline, and its block modifiers suck. You're like, most successful Void characters have some kind of like strong defense printed on their face, and I mean, being able to wall cling something gives you some defense. I just don't know if it's going to be good enough, but I'm open to being proven wrong with Void on this character for sure. That's going to conclude my wrap up and my first villain class. Today we covered All for One. Keep your eyes peeled the next couple of days when I cover All Might 6. Thanks for entering the chamber, and I'll catch you in the next one.